Hi, how's it going? Resident of Collinwood here. I'm here to discuss the history of Quentin Collins, the character, the actor who played him, and thank God only one actor played him. David Selby, West Virginia native, played the part of Quentin Collins in the show Dark Shadows. Quentin was introduced as a ghost. Um, is that how this really character was? That his only connection? Actually, no. Tom Jennings and Chris Jennings, who were played by the same actor, Don Briscoe, were actually Quentin's great, great grandchildren or great grandchildren. And that's what was funny about it, was that, in a sense, this all more started with with Don Briscoe's character than this did with David Selby's character. Yeah, it led into Selby's character and then going back in time. But really, the curse of the werewolf, you were about to find out a lot about it. And credit to Don Briscoe and them, because prior to Quentin, I felt he really made you feel sorry for the werewolf character way before David did. I love David Selby to death, and I'm not taking anything away from him and what he did. Um, Certainly not, but I just enjoyed what um, Don Briscoe did with Chris Jennings and Tom Jennings too. More Chris, because Chris was the werewolf. Um, I just feel the vampire was a short-lived thing. I mean, it was cool at first, but it was like, come on. To me, Barnabas should have been the only vampire. Um, so what happens here is, the way you're introduced to Quentin's ghost is through David and Amy. David Collins and Amy Jennings, who is Chris Jennings' I want to say sister, I believe. If I'm mistaken about that, guys, let me know. Um, I believe, yeah, that's his sister, and it, they they start researching Quentin. They look at pictures of Quentin, and they're not sure which one is Quentin at first, and they finally figure out which one is Quentin, and they receive a telephone call from like an old 18th century phone. It's 1897 is the year Quentin lived during, and it's weird because Quentin's ghost is the only. Now, he's not the first ghost in Dark Shadows history. I want to stress that, and I'm not going to get into the other ghost, but he's the first ghost that's, to me, even with Victoria's ghost that she saw, whether you want to debate whether that was Roger or David, um, I really don't count that ghost as an antagonist. They didn't really do nothing but stand there. To me, David Selby's ghost was really the first antagonist. If you disagree with that, that's fine. Um, just my opinion. And I mean, he was literally hurting these children in a long term way, and he basically made the not basically he did make the Collins family leave the great house and live in the old house with Barnabas, who wasn't a vampire anymore because of Adam. And you might say, well, how does this all end really? For those that don't know, Dark Shadows got into time travel. They traveled back in time. Now, they did a seance with the 1975, or sorry, 1795 storyline. Mess that up. Of the 1795 storyline. And with this, they used I Ching wands, which actually belonged to Quentin Collins. And they throw the wands on the table, and it has to lay out a certain way for you to be able to walk through that door. Now, here's the catch: you actually had to be able to go back in time. Now, if you don't have a physical body for your astral body to go back to, you're not going to be there very long, and your time will pull you back. I actually love Dark Shadows explaining that. That made a world of fucking sense to me, and sorry if I swear. Um, I promise that'll be my only swear word. I'll try. But I love what they did with that, explaining it. So the one person who could go back in time, who did have a body to go back to, would be Barnabas Collins. You might say, so Barnabas Collins had a body in 1897. Yeah, he was chained in his coffin by that time. Oh, actually, way before that. And because Barnabas lived in 1795. So he had a body to go back to, even though this meant becoming a vampire for him again and having to live off blood. He was willing to risk that to save David and Amy, to find out what he could do to change history, to alter from Quentin to becoming a ghost, etc., etc. He had to find out many things, though, when Quentin died, all that. Um, so Barnabas Collins, who was played by Jonathan Frid, goes back in time by using the I Ching wands. He's sitting in a chair. And I love how Professor Stokes and Dr. Julia Hoffman are helping him, and his astral body gets up and walks towards the door, and boom, he's back in that chain. He goes through the door, and he's in that chain coffin again, and boom, he's a vampire again. And I really love that sequence and how they did it. It looked cool. I went back and watched this. It still, to me, looks awesome for the 60s. Call me a nerd. But I just enjoyed that to death, and I still do. Um, when I met David Selby's character, when I saw Quentin Collins, he really wasn't the ghost. You know what I mean? The ghost was menacing. I wouldn't call Quentin Collins menacing. If anything, he's more of a philanthropist and a womanizer, and he loves to drink. I mean, you want to talk about a complete 180 of a character that you think you're just going to get this big bad heel, and not really. Yeah, at times he can be a bit rough, but he's not necessarily the heel of the story, which really shook me in the 1897 storyline, what I call the Quentin Collins arc. And Quentin's one of my favorite characters because of the way David Selby played him and just the things he did with him. He was just so freestyle and relaxed. And I just love the way David Selby smiled with Quentin. He would just give you this smile and smirk. And he was just so damn charming. It was just hard to, even if you made this guy a villain, it would be hard to root against him, even though you were rooting for Barnabas to succeed. What's weird about this story is there's a lot of weirdness in this one. Technically, Quentin dies twice. He gets brought back to life by Angelique. Then, in a dream sequence, he dies, but that's actually what's funny. It's Beth who kills Quentin initially. And what you find out is Beth commits suicide, but you're thinking, well, did she commit suicide over Quentin's death? Actually, no. She commits suicide because a guy named Count Putoffi, who has this powerful hand, he gets a powerful hand back. Again, this is all craziness, and I love it to death. Um, Somehow, the hand is so powerful, him and Quentin switch bodies. So Count Potoffi's soul is in Quentin's body, and Quentin's soul is in Count Potoffi's body. Dark Shadows, folks. And so she thinks it's and she jumps off Widow's Hill. Beth does because she thinks Quentin is Count Patofi, but they actually switch back. Now, where does Quentin Collins become a werewolf? Right? Where's that come into play? Again, this whole arc is one messed up. It's not messed up in a bad way. It's just everything's like, holy cannoli. It doesn't let you catch your breath, and I actually love that about this arc. It's not. 1795 was done the same way. It would not let you catch your breath. Same thing here. We're not going to let you catch your breath. You're going to get knocked down and drug out with us here. And and I love that about Dark Shadows. That's the one thing I loved about it so much, and still do to this day. And Quentin Collins, again, I've said this, he was a womanizer, so he had a fascination with women. He loved to kiss them and make love to them, and that's just who he was. So he was, again, he was a charming guy, so it wasn't hard to, you know, sort of fall for him, fall for that boyish charm that he had. And he married this girl who was this gypsy, and what Quentin didn't know was the girl, he had left this girl, but she had gotten pregnant to him and had twins. Well, after giving birth, she went mad and went crazy because he left her. Now, I can't remember what Quentin thought, whether he thought she was dead or just gone. I can't remember that part, but Quentin, again, he just lived life. He hit on Beth, he kissed Beth, he kissed many women on the show. David Selby made out with more women than however make. Quentin Collins, he just, again, he's charming, and I love Quentin Collins for that. He's a character you could just look at and go, dude, what are you going to get yourself into next? And what happens is this girl was actually locked in the Collinwood Estate Tower. Well, actually in a room, I should say. And she actually gets out of this room, and Quentin, again, didn't know she was still alive or even around, and they actually see each other in in what's known as, later becomes known as Matthew Morgan's cottage, if you're familiar with it. If not, it was just a little cottage on the Collinwood estate, and it's abandoned though during 1897. And she kills Quentin Collins. She stabs him, and this is where Angelique comes into play. Angelique brings him back to life out for Barnabas's request, because obviously we know how Angelique feels about Barnabas. She loves him, but he doesn't love her back. What happens is Quentin Collins ends up killing the mother of his children. And you might say, can you still like him after that? I don't know about like him, but he's so caught up on revenge on a lot of things at times, and that's sort of how the Collinses are. If you do something to them, they're damn sure going to do something to you. Sort of an eye for an eye. And Magna, who was this girl's sister, she's the one who puts the curse on Quentin, the werewolf curse, and it ends up cursing the kids. What Magna and Quentin didn't know is that her sister had those kids. And that's the one thing I'll say was the most shocking, is that how little people knew that Quentin had two kids, two twins. And again, I love this arc. It's a lot of fun to go and watch it. Go watch the Quentin Collins arc, or watch any of these arcs. And I really love David Selby's performance of the character. I'm a huge, again, I've told you guys, I love Dark Shadows to death. Um, Dan Curtis created an amazing series, and you know, this was just so. Sam Hall did a hell of a job writing these episodes, really, with Quentin, with all of it. It just, that whole arc was just, again, they're dragging you along, and it does not give you time to slow down and catch your breath. Um, just some amazing, amazing stuff. David Selby as Quentin, as at times he's charming, he's funny, and there's times he's just downright vicious with certain ones. Um, but again, I love the Quentin Collins arc. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope I explained it good. I know this video is running really long. There was no short way of explaining this. So like, share, comment, subscribe, and let me know what you guys think for the Dark Shadows discussion group. I'll see you.